Hey guys, it's Obi here. Today we're going to be talking about AC system components. So I want to make sure everybody knows, but when we are talking about the components of an air conditioning system, they are going to be pretty similar no matter what style of Freon we use, whether it's R12, 134A, or R1234YF. They're all going to use basically the same components. There's just going to be some small variations in the individual components between systems, okay? So when we talk about different types of AC systems, you're going to see a bunch of different little acronyms like CCOT and CCTXV and VDOT and VDXTV. And to the untrained eye, these might seem like some type of STD or something. I don't know. It's just they're a really weird list of words there, or acronyms, I guess. So just so you guys know, if we take this and we split it right down the middle, it's pretty simple for us to understand. The numbers on the left are going to be for our style of compressor, and the letters on the right, are going to be for the style of system we have for the air conditioning system, okay? So what we're going to talk about first is going to be a CCOT, which stands for Cycling Clutch Orifice Tube, okay? So I do want to tell you guys that there are two basic types of systems. There is an orifice tube system, which we're going to talk about first. And then there is also a thermostatic expansion valve system, or a TXV, okay? They are pretty similar. They're both going to get to the same result. One of them is a little bit more efficient. The other one's a little bit cheaper. Okay, but today we're going to focus on the orifice tube system. It's a little bit simpler and cheaper and easier for us to understand. So inside of an AC system, we're going to have a couple main components. All right, so we're going to have the compressor, an orifice tube, the evaporator, and an accumulator, okay? So today we are going to talk about kind of how the system is split, and we'll talk about the compressor and the orifice tube. So I want to start off by showing you guys this picture of the AC system on an automobile, okay? This is a CCOT system. This is a cycling clutch orifice tube system. And we can see there's a lot going on here, okay? So we can see we have a compressor here. We'll go clockwise. Our condenser. And then we have our orifice tube, the evaporator, and accumulator, and then back to the compressor. So if we see this system, about half of this system is red, and about half of this system is blue, okay? So we can split an air conditioning system into two sides. We can split it into the high pressure side, which is red, and the low pressure side, which is blue. Okay? Now, I want to make sure everybody knows right off the bat that we're going to consider the system starting at the oil compressor, or the AC compressor. It is obviously a loop, so everything that leaves the compressor should come back to the compressor. If it doesn't, hint, hint, you got a leak, okay? But, so everything into the compressor, all the freon that comes into the compressor is going to be compressed and then sent out through the discharge line, okay? So this would be a good time to talk about our compressor. So our compressor is going to look like typically one of these three style of options. This one is actually a piston style AC compressor, which we don't see on anything anymore, maybe in some industrial applications, but as far as automotive goes, one of these two little guys right here are going to be your ticket, okay? This is also a piston, but it's a radial piston style compressor, and this one is a scroll style compressor. So it just depends on the compressor style that you have for the system. Now I will tell you that this is probably a cycling clutch compressor, which means it's a fixed displacement pump. So the pump is going to pump the same amount every revolution no matter what. And we'll talk about that more in depth later. Just know the compressor is going to look like this. And the compressor, it's whole function is it is used to compress a low pressure gas into a high pressure gas. Now I want you to read this next part really clearly. Make sure you understand it. It only pumps gas, no liquid at all, ever, none. And the last thing is, it is going to be the split between the high side and the low side of the A system. Now there's got to be two different points where we're going to separate the high and the low side of the system, and this is one of them. So let's go back to our picture, and let's look at it here, and we will see that we are sucking in a low pressure gas, compressing to a high pressure gas, okay? And the reason we don't use liquid in here is because it's kind of impossible to compress a liquid. Remember, we don't want to do that. So we compress our liquid, or we compress our gas, and that comes out of our discharge line. So this begins our high pressure line, which on a vehicle, the high pressure line is going to be the smaller of the two lines, okay? If you have a vehicle running and you feel the AC lines and one of them is really hot, that is the high side line because it's hot, and anytime we increase pressure, there's a correlation between pressure and temperature. So we will come back to, after it leaves the compressor, it's going to go to our condenser and go through there, and then the condenser will actually cool with airflow going through. It'll actually cool that Freon down until it gets to a low enough temperature to condense back to a liquid, okay? And then we get over to our low pressure liquid line, which is our orifice tube. So this is an orifice tube on the system, okay? This is going to be the other half of the split in the system, okay? So here on an orifice tube, it's going to consist of a fixed orifice. So it's got a fixed size hole to let a specific amount of Freon through it, okay? Now the reduction in flow is going to cause the pressure to drop and nothing. It's going to allow the pressure to drop and then turn that liquid, or allow it to expand into a gas, okay? Now if we think back to our latent heat demonstration, when it expands into a gas, it pulls some of that energy with it. And that is ultimately how the AC system is going to really do the cooling. So if we look at these orifice tubes, we'll see right here we have this tiny little hole. That is actually the metered orifice. Now it is fixed, which means it's always going to be that size no matter what. And another thing is over here, it's hard to tell in this picture because it's just a drawing, but this is actually a filter. So this is a good inspection point to see if you have any issues in your AC system, because if you see little pieces of debris in the screen, it's pretty much a dead giveaway that you've got an issue somewhere in the system. Okay? And the reason we put this screen here is because we do not want any of that debris to get to the orifice and plug it up. That is a huge problem. Okay? So back to our air conditioning system. We have our compressor, which is the split between the low and the high side of the system, and it puts out high pressure gas. And then the orifice tube takes high pressure liquid, and drops the pressure to a low pressure liquid, and then that is going to evaporate in the evaporator, okay? All right, so we are going to stop right there for today. We will continue on, and we'll get into depth a little bit more with the condenser, the evaporator, and then we will talk about the accumulator tomorrow. All right, guys, Hobie out.